I previously recorded a video on the 3 major sessions as a basic overview and bringing it to your attention that you need to focus on a specific session, finding out which session aligns with your time zone and which one you should focus on. So in this video, we're going to dive deeper actually into the charts, focusing on the characteristics that I went over in each of these sessions, such as the silver bullet, the PM session, news events. In Asia, I said it was the wick of the daily range. And in London session, we're going to focus on the Judas swing and the silver bullet. So to backtest, let's start by going into the daily time frame. Because daily bias is everything in trading, and without the daily bias, you can't expect to be profitable over the long run. You need to figure out where price is going in a daily time frame and a weekly time frame. That way, when you're on the lower time frame, you already know what the direction is, and all that's left for you is an entry model to take you to where price is headed. So on the daily time frame, I'm going to be using ICT concepts, as is the reason why you clicked on this video, and we're going to backtest in this specific range. So what I'm marking out here is a daily fair value gap. You want to be pretty specific about this because on the lower time frame, you'll see that it respects nearly every quarter of a daily fair value gap. So let's mark this out, FVG. There you go. Now we could start scaling down. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to this day candle right here. Okay, now we're going to dive on a lower time frame, 4 hour. So the first thing that we're going to want to note is that we wicked into it. We filled the fair value gap. So there isn't anything of significance on the lower time frame here other than this fair value gap, but we already are looking at the daily one, so we're just going to dive lower. So on this lower time frame now on the 1 hour, we can see already that the wicks were digging deeper into the inefficiency. However, the bodies were respecting it and now are pushing out of it. We can already see the buy side inside of it. Now what we want to do is find the session, right? The session that we're going to trade. We have this bias that we're looking to pull up higher. So now going in the 30-minute time frame, we can see that it was this New York session that actually ran into the daily fair value gap. We already know that we're looking for an expansion, and you can see here on the 30-minute time frame, we have this series of bearish candles. This is known as an order block once price comes above it. So now that we have this kind of higher time frame or highest time frame with a confluence that we can use to trade, we're going to mark this out, order block. Now we're simply going to wait for the next session. So the next session should be Asia session, which happens after the New York session, the daily candle closes. And something that I really like to use inside of Asia session is this higher time frame power of 3. This basically shows you the daily candle. And currently we're inside of the previous day range, and you can see that it was a bearish candle from this moment on. You can see that Asia session swept the high, creating that wick that I was talking about. London session pulled back up and used the leg that Asia session created. In other words, this fair value gap, the inefficiencies within Asia session leg, right there. Candle stayed within the fair value gap, and it used it ultimately to go lower. And then New York session finished the move, and now we're looking for that reversal. We finally hit our target, and now inside of Asia session, we're going to be looking for a pullback. So we're currently on the 30-minute time frame. Let's skip to the next session. So you can see that the daily candle disappeared. That's because it closed and a new one opened, right? This is what happens prior to Asia session, and this is why I was talking about Asia session being the wick and looking for the expansion or power of 3 of the daily candle. So what do we have here? We're finally approaching into Asia session, and we left the daily range. However, you can't just take a trade and expect it to be a profitable run towards buy side. You want some sort of confirmation, and I'm not sure what kind of confirmation we're going to get, so we just have to wait. First thing I can note here, however, is this is the first fair value gap that formed after price ran away from this daily range. We do want to see a wick created, so potentially we're looking for a sweep of liquidity. However, because of price wanting to reach away and leave this daily range, we can also see a lot of explosive price action towards buy side. And we might not get a perfect pullback towards this daily fair value gap and a perfect creation of the wick. So maybe we're just going to look for price action to run into the nearest fair value gap for our entry, right? Because we're already inside of Asia session. So let's just wait for a little pullback into the nearest inefficiency. Maybe a new fair value gap will get created here. Okay, so here we have it. Price didn't dig into this 30-minute one. Potentially there was a 1 hour fair value gap. Let's just check it out just in case. There wasn't a 1 hour either. So we can stay on the 30-minute time frame and just look for it now to pull into the newest confluence that was created, which is this order block. Right, price is already leaving this daily fair value gap, and we're just looking for explosive price action towards buy side. Not only is there this 30-minute or order block right here, let me mark this out for you guys, order block, we also have this now IFVG, where price closed above the bearish fair value gap right over here, which created a IFVG, inversion fair value gap. So now this bearish fair value gap will be acting as a bullish fair value gap. Let me bring this to the front. There you go. So now we just look for it to tap right back into this, and we will get into our entry for Asia session. There you go. We already got the tap in. Let's look for one more deeper pullback into this order block. I'd say that's valid enough. Let's look for one more candle, but we did already tap into this new fair value gap right here. You can see on the lower time frame. So just to be safe, let's get into our trade from here and just factor in for the fact that it can dig a little deeper into this IFVG. Stop loss below, and let's ride this to the nearest liquidity. And there you go, we're getting a pullback higher. It's already in New York session, and we have these equal highs that were just swept. Let's get out of our trade right there. You can see that we kind of factored in for the fact that we were just leaving the daily range. We were looking for a buy side, and we used this inversion fair value gap to get into our trade for buy side, right? We also tapped into this lower time frame fair value gap alongside this order block. So it was a high probability entry with more than 3 confluences. This is how we traded Asia session today. You can see that we got the wick from the open, so we didn't need to see a deeper pullback into this daily fair value gap, and we got the expansion of the daily candle from Asia session. London session here was a little bit after our entry, and we continued Asia session's move, and now we can watch what New York session does. So looking for more opportunities, you can dive into the lower time frame and scalp specific sections of a session. In this case, in New York, I love to trade the silver bullet. So we're going to dive on a lower time frame and look for this 10 a.m. silver bullet. So first I'm going to start with the 15-minute time frame. You can see that we got a lot of consolidation here, accumulation from the start of New York session. This is likely due to the fact that a big amount of volatility came into the market during Asia and London session. So during Asia session, we want to see it leave and sweep both sides of this liquidity. In this case, we have this nearest liquidity right here. We have this low, and we have this high right here, which was just swept. So approaching the silver bullet, 9:15, 9:30, we swept the other side of liquidity, right? So now we can dive into a even lower time frame and look for some sort of confirmation that's going to get us to our target. In this case, we're still bullish, right? Price has been respecting every bullish confluence so far after leaving this daily bullish fair value gap, and we're still looking for buy side. So now diving into the 5-minute time frame, we're looking for some sort of lower time frame order block or IFVG to take us to our buy side once more. So this is the newest buy side, and we're looking for New York session to run on that buy side once more. So let's see, 9:40, 9:45, 9:50, 9:55, and now we're starting into the silver bullet. So it seems this day we had either some news event at 10 a.m. or potentially we just had a lot of war news or volatility that entered the market here. This is not a normal event where you'd see a candle like this. However, you can still see that this happened at 10 a.m., which was the silver bullet. And if you happen to get into the market because of this liquidity sweep, you might have been rewarded. If this was a news event, then you shouldn't be in the market prior to a news event. You should rather wait for after and looking for some sort of a confirmation or inefficiencies that you can actually trade. So potentially we might be running down on these lows again. Okay, let's see. We're now approaching PM session. We just swept these equal lows right here, and we're filling the rest of this fair value gap that was created during this huge move. Let's see what price does, and maybe if we pull up higher, we might get an order block that we can actually trade. Okay, so we pulled up above this candle right here. We do have this order block now. We have a new fair value gap. This is a high probability order block. Let me mark the high of this order block. And for those that can see, you would know that this right here is a new fair value gap. There you go. Let's wait for price to tap back into this. And a little bit lower. Let's see if we tapped into this. Technically, this entire range would be an order block. Obviously, our high probability order block happens from the very high of the lowest candle. However, price has been really bullish, especially considering this move. We're also approaching the PM session now that we're at 2 p.m. So I'm gonna take a risk and get into a position here. Let's go in with low risk. And I'm gonna secure my stop loss underneath this inefficiency. A little bit lower because we're trading Forex here. Okay. Price did end up pulling down into the inefficiency. So gladly we secured our stop loss a little bit lower. We could also layer positions once this becomes a order block. There you go. We now have an order block. If we tap back in here, we can layer another position to our entry. So let's get in with that. Our stop loss updated right here, and we're just targeting the nearest liquidity right here, which is these equal highs. We get a lot of consolidation. I mean, this is already after the New York session happened. We did get a big move of volatility right here, so it's to be expected that we get some sort of consolidation. Let's see if we do end up running on price. And it's now Asia session. Okay, just a lot of consolidation. I'm gonna exit my position right here before we end up taking a unnecessary loss, because this is already another session, right? We ended up holding through the close. I normally wouldn't do this, but this is backtesting and you can't really tell when the market closes. So inside of Asia session, we now have a lot of consolidation, and as I was telling you guys, we are looking for a wick to be created. And because there's a lot of consolidation here, there's also two sides of liquidity that we want swept. So I don't want to be on a lower time frame here because we can get chopped up thinking that there's going to be some sort of move. Instead, we're going to scale out to a higher time frame, and we're going to look for this session to move on both of these sides of liquidity. We have this buy stop and sell stops down here. So let's wait for Asia session. There we go. We have the first move on liquidity. Because we are bullish, we don't want to be taking sells towards this side. We rather want to wait for the next session to actually run on it before we take a trade. That would be our bias. So inside of New York session, you can see that we had a move. 9:30, we had a huge move towards sell side. Let's look for it to continue running on sell side until it sweeps the liquidity down below. Okay, a few more sessions gone by. Let's look for a deeper wick into this liquidity right here. We did technically already sweep these lows right here. You can see that we had relatively equal liquidity right here. And don't always hang on to the hopes that you're going to get your optimal liquidity swept. So this did create a order block. We're pushing into London session here. In one more hour, this is going to be, or 30 minutes, this is going to be London session. There you go. And we just created a IFVG. So obviously we are bullish and we did sweep this equal lows right here. So now all that we're going to look for is a little bit of confirmation. We want to see a pullback into a IFVG right here along this bearish leg. Let's see if we get that here. Okay. Price dug a little bit lower, but it did end up respecting that right here. Also this bullish fair value gap right here. You can see that we got two layers of confirmation right there. I'm going to layer in my position right here, secure my stop loss below the lowest FVG in this move, and we're going to target the highs once more because we are bullish and we're targeting buy side. Let's see if we get this move. We're now inside of London session. Okay, we pulled back a little bit deeper and I ended up taking a loss here. So a good example of what might have just happened is me just getting in too early, right? We do still have a lot of liquidity resting below, and because we swept both sides of liquidity here, we got the buy side and the sell side, we might have been targeting a little bit deeper. So let's see what happens. Maybe we start trading from New York session. So it seems that price didn't in fact want to sweep completely this liquidity. It rather just wanted to sweep a little bit more of the internal liquidity before running higher. And that's okay. You're not always going to get your perfect entry. Price might want to sweep liquidity a few more times. As you see, it swept it once, and then again it aimed for those lows before running higher. We did inside of 10 a.m. right here, we did get the silver bullet move, right? Price came up above these bearish candles, which created a order block on the 30-minute time frame. Price then referenced this order block once it came up above twice before running on buy side right here, which is perfect price action. I've already done a lot of backtesting for today. I hope you learned a lot about these sessions characteristics, what to expect, and how you can take advantage of them. Dive into your own charts and explore what happens in the market. Take care. See you guys next time.